rest of your life, you're going to talk about self-love because now you know what really matters. Purpose, and I found it at 24.
And so what did you start doing then to then promote this idea of love?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting when I woke up, and I don't come from this space of now coaching, and this is not my thing. This is back 4 years ago now.
Right.
And so when I woke up, I was like, Mr. Self-Love. And I went to Instagram, Facebook.com. I did the whole thing. And I even thought to myself, is this real?
Wow.
Is this something that I'm gonna do every single day? Can I believe it first and foremost to then go out and do it?
I love this though. Many of you know that my brand is America's Life Coach, and people often ask me about that like it was some branding decision that I made.
Sure.
And I'm like, no, it was one of those things that came to me, and then I got the words, and then I had to figure out how to live into it, which is, it sounds like what you had to do with, I don't even know what self-love is. So how did you begin to learn what self-love is? How did that develop after you got these words?
What's funny is whenever I talk to people, communicate this story, is that it came from my self-hate. So people can look at me now and say, well, he has a lot of knowledge on self-love, but it came from a lot of knowledge on self-hate.
Sure.
Wow.
And so it's like you said, it wasn't really about branding. It was about getting this message out as best as I could at this very moment, because for some people, it's a fine line between wanting to live another moment in their life, wanting to continue a relationship in their life, believing that they can, versus waking up every morning and saying, you know what, I can't, it's impossible, it's not for me, I could never be that person. And I told myself, it's this moment, because I don't know who out of the many or the few will hear this message from Mr. Self-Love, and it very likely can be the cure to their self-hate.
Which is amazing. And you just mentioned it here, wake up today, say now. Some people, I saw on your Facebook live stream, you said some people wait a day, some people wait a month, some people wait years, and some people never actually do it. So you say literally start now. And what would that look like for somebody, or for our viewers out there, to start today on living their purpose?
Yeah, I mean, when I was 12 years old, I got taken into this meeting and had no idea where I was going. It was in Oak Park, California. And when I sat down, the first guy that spoke on stage, he said, we're only born with 2 fears. And I was thinking, wow, I'm 12 years old, my father just left my family, there's a lot going on in my head. And he said, it's the fear of loud noise and the fear of falling. And I thought to myself, at 12, if I can believe this guy, and if I go back on Google and figure out this guy's legit, then I can overcome all these different fears and thoughts of lack and limitation that I have in my own life. And from that, I can move forward and be happy within myself and doing what I love.
That's amazing. Is that true? We're really only born with those 2 fears, so everything else is stories that we've told ourselves, or the set of circumstances that, you know, our experiences as a child, and that has then set the blueprint for how we now view the world. So we can fix that, like you said, because those aren't real.
Yeah, I mean, from when you're a child and your parents say, look left, look right before you cross the street, right? Don't eat this with that, or all these things we start putting in. And what happens is you're not conscious because you're a child. But as you start to get older, unless you've figured that out and you've broken the cycle of what you saw growing up as a child, then the story's gonna repeat.
One of my mentors used this metaphor that I love of, it's like a kitchen pantry. And when we're a kid, someone goes all the way to the back to like the top shelf and puts something there. And then it just gets left. And that's how he talks to people about these childhood beliefs that we form. They just get left. That's why it's there. It was just left there. It's forgotten. You're not even thinking about what's in the kitchen pantry and the back shelf. But I love your transparency and vulnerability in sharing this story with us, because not everybody watching this is in a great space. Some of our viewers are loving life, living their purpose, doing great, but some of them are in a very low moment right now. And I love that you can speak to your whole journey began in low moments. And that point when you were 12, low moment. And when Mr. Self-Love came to you, low moment.
Amen.
And so what do you think has been the biggest factor in how far you've come? Because obviously you've come a very long way.
Yeah, I think sometimes we focus on the destination as, when I get to this point, I'm gonna be happy. When I enter this relationship and it goes the way I would dream of it going, I'm gonna be happy. But at the end of the day, if you don't focus on your happiness right now, you can even get to that destination, but still not be happy.
And be disappointed because disillusioned. This thing didn't make me happy and I was counting on it to.
And that's why if you look into Hollywood, if you look into celebrity athletes, the moment their career ends and they're not in the spotlight or they're not invited to the red carpet parties and things like that, all of a sudden there's no validation. And unless they know the most important validation is right here, then they're going to keep looking outside to feel worthy and find out it's an empty feeling.
Don't you also think that it's every, like you said, their low points is if there's people out there going through hard times, I know I've gone through, we all have, we're human beings, right? But that there's a purpose for this, like you found your purpose, and to really dig in and say this is like, instead of like feeling maybe all the emotions, still feel it, but maybe take a second and also look at objectively, what am I supposed to learn from this? How am I supposed to grow from this? You know, one of the things you also talk about is vulnerability and how there is so much strength in vulnerability. And I applaud that. That's something I try to live by daily, is that the, you know, vulnerability actually is strong. Can you speak a little bit more about how you came up with that? I guess it's also the stuff you went through. But.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, life is gonna life, and we can't stop it. We're not in control of a lot of things that happen. I used to have this fear of flying. And I had a guy come to me and say, Armand, you know, turn the knob of the, you know, the tray to take your mind off it. But when I really thought about it, I said, well, I don't know how to fly. There's a guy flying. I have no control. So let's just live. And ever since that moment, that's been my life philosophy of things are going to happen. But if you make a decision of choosing betterness in your life versus bitterness, which is a lot easier, a lot easier, then ultimately you can move forward. But to feel is sometimes painful. And so we suppress it with food, drugs, alcohol, relationships, thinking that someone, a girl, a guy is the answer, when instead it's the first and foremost is looking within and figuring out what's in here, feel it. I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, right? But that's the fastest way you will move forward in your life. Being happy, which is, for God's sakes, the most important thing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because so often I hear the self-love conversation separated from relationships, and like not to stereotype, but I feel like it's often like kind of bitter single people who are like, I don't need a man, self-love. And what I love is you have this very open-hearted, actually self-love opens you up to be able to have a healthy relationship, which you certainly live out and demonstrate. So can you talk about the relationship between self-love and having a healthy relationship and how they really go together? It's not, if I really love myself, I'm just solo and I don't need anyone.
Yeah, yeah, you see that quite often. Of because it didn't work out, I'm good, I don't need somebody,
right?
And I'm gonna be single for the rest of my life, right? And people have convinced themselves that that's what it is.
That's their truth. But
that's their truth, right? But in reality, at the end of the day, you will always attract who you are. And as much as we want to sometimes fast track the process of finding someone that is in a better career place, better self-love place, you can't fast track the process, because although they may date you, if they're in a place where they have their self-love and you're looking for them to take control of you and fix your problems, that relationship's not going to last. And so you get to a point, like you said, in relationships, of knowing that it's your self-love first. And once you've taken care of yourself, I always say a healthy body, a healthy mind, and healthy finances, so you have peace of mind in your life, and from there you'll attract better.
Okay, but how do you actually get there? Like,
This is what Suzanne does every episode.
I'm like,
But
how? Like, I love the idea, but what does that mean? How do you practice self-love?
It is every day, and I love that question. I had a feeling it was coming from the moment you were red. And to answer your question, as much as I want to tell you this, you know, esoteric, beautiful of a message that you're going to be like, oh, wow. At the end of the day, every day we're faced with adversity, challenges, some, you know, relationships. And so it's not as pretty as some people think when they think, oh, self-love. But when I wake up...
It's not just going to the spa.
It's not just going to the spa, a place we love.
Right.
It's waking up every day knowing what matters most and taking care of yourself first. It doesn't matter if you're married, you're dating, you have a son, a daughter. You know, one of our good friends, Courtney, said it best. You know, to be the best mother, you have to take care of yourself. It doesn't matter how much you love your daughter. You don't take care of yourself, you may not be there for your daughter. Your health may not be there, right? So to answer your question, the how?
Yes.
Is every single day you have to remind yourself what matters most, and it's your health, it's your mind, and it's practicing the philosophy of choosing betterness. And I know it's maybe this vague response to your question, but even in my own life, relationships in my family, friends, career, right? There are things that happen that I have to sit down with myself and say, Armand, don't retaliate. You know, I think Drake calls it trigger fingers, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, because what someone says about you doesn't say something about you. For the most part, it says something for where they are in their own life. And so to not retaliate, or if someone tries to enter a relationship and all of a sudden it becomes codependent, you need to know that although you're together in this relationship, you're on two separate journeys that you've decided to live that life together. I'm gonna go back one more time.
Yeah, say that again.
You're in a relationship, but you're on two separate journeys in your life that you've decided to come together and live this life.
That's beautiful.
But the distinction is you're doing your thing, right? He's doing his thing. At the end of the day, you come together
Interesting.
and you're present.
Yeah. I also think with your how question, it's going to look different because we're all individuals. It's going to look different in terms of what you need to do to take care of yourself versus what you need to do versus what I would do. I think is a very individual thing. But you know, we got so many questions because self-love, as I said from the offset, is such it's such a universal topic. So Veronica asked, how do you distinguish between loving yourself versus being like self-centered, egotistical? And I think, you know, we may have touched on this a little bit in episode 2, but I think a lot of people have this fear is like, well, can I do too much self-love? Or like, am I gonna end up being egotistical? What's your answer to that for everybody who has that in the back of their mind?
Don't worry about other people.
Well, that's easy.
I mean, it's really
That's
just
an
that
easy
simple.
answer.
You're saying though, like, don't worry about other people, but still always act in like kindness and integrity.
Absolutely,
and-
because at the end of the day, if you look at historically Mother Teresa, Muhammad Gandhi, if you look at these greats that have been world philanthropists, Martin Luther King, at the end of the day, even doing something philanthropic will get a result back. And sometimes it may not be a positive response. And sometimes you sit there and you say, how is that possible? That I'm doing such positive work in humanity, bettering humanity, yet the response from maybe 50% of the world is, I have ego, or I shouldn't be doing this with my life, and all these things. So at the end of the day, yes, always integrity, kindness come from your heart, but at the end of the day, not everybody is going to agree, and sometimes your closest loved ones with the decisions you make in your life, even if it's positive.
I love that you say that because that's something also we're talk about is living in your purpose, and not everyone's going to understand that, and that's okay. You even talked about when you made this declaration of declaring Mr. Self-Love that people reached out to you, and most people were really positive, but there were some negative comments, and your perspective on that was to be like, you know what? Actually, this is all the more reason why I need to do it. And I thought that was so profound because our perspective is in how we see things and why we do, why you stayed on the course. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I remember the moment I put it on Facebook for the first time, I started branding myself. I can't even say some of the things I got back on air.
We can't say them out loud.
Really?
But it was horrible. And for a minute, I did sit there. This is my truth.
Yeah.
And I did think to myself, some people are reading it as Mrs. Elf-Love. Some people are wondering.
I would never have guessed that. This is a real television moment there. Okay, Mrs. Elf-Love, didn't know that was going to be.
I had everything you can imagine from, is this femininity from a masculine man, right? Is femininity looked at as negative because I am a man? And when I received that feedback, although I sat with it and I processed it for a minute, I realized that feedback gave me more the reason as to why, especially for men, to send this message out today, not tomorrow, that vulnerability is going to be your path to freedom from holding yourself back in life, from relationships. And it is not weakness as much as society can label telling your truth, speaking your truth, saying I'm not okay. I mean, you ask people nowadays, you say, how are you? They say, I'm okay. And I say, Stefan, one more time, I'm going to ask you, are you, right?
But are you really?
But most people don't really want to know the answer.
Correct. it goes both ways. Some
Right.
people don't want
Yeah.
to share it, but some people don't have someone that is present with them
To ask
and
it.
to ask and listen. So it goes both ways.
You know, I do love that we're having this discussion of, we could say for lack of a better word, haters. Because so many people ask, well, I know what my passion is, or I have this dream, I have this like secret vision I haven't told anyone.
Yeah.
But what should I do because the people in my life are not going to understand? And if there's one thing, you know, we've known each other, we've been friends for years. If there's one thing I know about you, you are going to move forward regardless. People think, oh, self-love, which, what, by the way, what a sad thing that self-love would be perceived as a female thing.
Right?
Like, that's just for females. But you're going to move forward regardless. What would you say to someone who is really wanting to do what they love, but there is some resistance showing up in their life? Because it happens to all of us. What would you say to that?
I made a decision when I was 12 years old. My father had left my family, and I said, you are going to be stubborn for the rest of your life. And sometimes we think stubborn as, right, some different
Yeah.
connotation. But stubbornness for me meant no matter what came my way in life, I was going to continue. And I've had the craziest things that happened in my life, but I don't live it as an excuse. I live it as it has made me a better man. And I'm proud of the painful moments in my life to have
Amen.
become a better man.
This is powerful.
I agree. This
gotta
is part
get-
of my mission statement in life. It's my personal one, is to own, for people to own
Yeah,
their
it's
own
important.
story, and that there's magic in voicing it. I love it. We're getting to
For sake of time, we have to get to our rapid fire questions.
ready for it.
But yeah, this is such a good conversation. I know you guys are loving this at home. Song on your playlist right now.
Oh, you may love one. I got to tell you, Dermot Kennedy, Young and Free.
I do know this
young
one.
and free. What does that go?
It's not on the radio. Is that shady?
Can you sing it?
I know I can say this to Suzanne. Don't make him sing it. Look it up, Young and Free. This is
They
the
won't
free
let you down.
plug.
Okay. Best book you've read recently?
The Influencer.
Can you sing it? Okay.
We've got 300 pages.
Lovely.
Favorite podcast?
Probably Lewis House, School of Greatness.
It's really good. I love that too. Favorite hangout spot in LA?
Oh, I don't know if the Boulevard counts as LA, but
Well,
I have
in our last episode, we had LA adjacent. You can provide an LA adjacent
LA
spot as
adjacent.
well.
It's called The Spot. It's open almost 24 hours. Outdoor fire pits,
Ooh.
music, and Mediterranean food. Can't go wrong.
Talk about taking care of yourself. The Spot. We got to go to The Spot.
We
It's
do.
Great. It's really great.
It's got
LA
music,
adjacent.
good food, LA adjacent. Okay, the thing you're most proud of?
My growth. To have not given up in moments of wanting to give up.
Which I just think is so powerful for people, that every single one of us on this couch, every single person watching this, we all have reasons from time to time that we could give up. And what makes the difference is not, did you have none of those moments?
Yeah.
What makes the difference is who you are in those moments. Final question, we love to finish all of our guests with this question is, if you had 30 seconds to tell the whole world one message, what would your message be?
In 30 seconds, I would say self-love is the cure to self-hate. It's the beginning of your self-healing. It's the end of your self-destruction. And to not be afraid to look within in a society where most people look outside and know more about other people, but it's time to come home to the self and know more about yourself.
Drop the mic. Can we like have that written for all of us and post this on, I don't know, all our social media?
I got
That was
you.
beautiful. All right.
Thank you, Armand.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having
Thank you
me.
so much.
Thank you.
I told you guys this is going to be a relevant discussion, and there's a lot to chew on in this conversation for all of us. So do something to take care of yourself today. We love you, and we will see you back here soon for episode 4.
Bye, guys. Self-love.
Bam!
Self-love, baby. I love it.